dissects now peace building and national cohesion as tools for growth and prosperity in Africa is one of the top discussions at the 12th Bola Tinubu Colloquium, which will take place virtually today. President Muhammadu Buhari will chair the colloquium, which is also a commemoration of the 69th birthday of the national leader of the All Progressives Congress. Liberian President George Weah, former president of Sierra Leone, Ernest Koroma, and 6 others will be speaking at the event, which will be a melting pot of policymakers, mediators, thought leaders, security experts, innovators, entrepreneurs, academics, amongst others. The keynote address titled, "Where Can Growth Go? The Social Conflict Push," will be presented by Professor of International Political Economy, Professor Danny Roderick. The colloquium is a unique event for sharing knowledge, experiences, and information around socio-economic issues and addressing the common governance challenges confronting Nigeria. Well, joining me via Skype is APC chieftain and Nigerian ambassador to the Kingdom of Spain, Ambassador Ademola Seriki. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Well, today the national leader of the All Progressive Congress, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, is celebrating his birthday, and there is a colloquium as well to commemorate that. And a lot of persons have been sending their wishes, eulogizing his person. Let's get your perhaps description of him, because you have worked closely with the person of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. How would you describe him, especially on a day like this?
Well, thanks very much for inviting me. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man of honor, a man of huge reputation and political generosity over the years, if not over 3 decades now, since 1996 or thereabouts, that he's been in the area. But more of 1991 when he started running for Senate, and he became a senator in 1992, of which time I met him almost 30 years now. You can imagine the number of people he has touched across the country, and that is why you see a huge followership, and he has his disciples across the nation. He's a bridge builder, which is a common expression as being able to depict him. Asiwaju has touched a lot of people. He has touched so many people, and by happenstance, there's no way you want to be stagnant with the same people you have touched without disappointing people sometimes. Nobody's infallible, so Asiwaju is not infallible. And where I find very alien and very displeased is when people he has touched over the years, and he, for some reasons, has to disappoint one or two of them. They wage war, they try to be combative, they try to be so battleful against it. That to me is very unkind amongst our people, because life is all about credit and debit. Even as husband and wife or as friends, when your credit surpasses your debit, that is still very much something that we can tolerate of each other. Human being relationship is all about tolerance. And really, it's only when the debit surpasses credit, that's when you have to engage the person. And he has a very huge, mega spirit of forgiveness, because over the years, people who have disappointed him in many fields and many areas. He has invariably, they come back to him and he will embrace them with the same line of affection and embracement. And that's who I know of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That spirit of forgiveness, it's very rare and very seldom among our people in Africa in particular. So I wish him the very, very best of birthday and moment.
Now, the colloquium, as we know, is a yearly event meant to commemorate his birthday. And as it is reported, it is born out of intense debate about a progressive Nigeria. For you, how has this yearly event shaped developments across the country, and in particular Lagos State?
Well, as you may be aware that every year there's always something topical that will have to be talked about. And if you have to audit the number of topics since the last 12 years, the last 12 years till date, you realize that it is not just about Lagos State, it's not just about economy, it's not about politics, it's not about diplomacy. It cuts across social, political justice. And that is giving everyone who cares about governance, proper governance of progressivism, that is an equal to be with, and being a proponent of a progressive idea or philosophy, you'll see that it has changed the tentacles, the significance of governance. However, it is something that you say. It is another thing to be able to implement. We are not implementing it to the letter because speeches have been given over the years, but how well that those who are governing, the governments, have been able to implement it. That is one thing that should be able to follow up to ensure in the way that we have to sift this process that we are implementing it to the letter. And that's where I feel that I feel very strong about this colloquium. The colloquium, what they call it, organizers should ensure that every year, how well do you audit? How well do you compensate in order to achieve what you said this year? This is our bond, our common values, and all that. Okay, by next year, when we come back, somebody should be able to audit that. Somebody should be able to assess and evaluate that how far have we gone in what we said last year. And that's where I want to see a significant change. And that will play a huge role in governing and governance. And that way, because Ashwaju is a strong economist. He's done so much. I remember that when he had to launch his book, Financialism, you can see that he's an expert in financial engineering. However, we are in a country where we don't appreciate the implementation of researchers. Whereas, if implementation is well developed, people will have to imbibe more in developing progressivism. And then it's a progressive, and he has never wavered. So the ideology, the philosophy, and the social justice that he represents from time to time should be seen to be of a strong value. Implementation should be well imbibed, and that would be what we can make on the area of a comparative analysis from years to years to years to years. And that will give us a very strong society of egalitarianism, whereby people will not be so involved in mundane dichotomy. This is where we find ourselves. And I want to see those changes to take place.
So let's look at the theme for this year, our common bond, our common wealth, the imperative of national cohesion for growth and prosperity. How critical is this conversation at a time such as this?
Well, we're going to 2023. Election is very close by. And the journey of 1 million days starts in one day. And really, Bola Ahmed Tinubu certainly, by all indications, is contesting, and you can see by all the body language here and there that I haven't seen whereby he has not announced officially. But our common bond, the issue of herdsmen, the issue of security, the oneness of Nigeria cannot be negotiated. That is what this is all about. Our common bond, strong values, which invariably is what we have, what has to bring us together, cannot be negotiated, hence incontrovertible. So nobody can say that. I heard someone earlier say that the herdsmen have all been there when we're young people in our common native areas and societies. You see them going with their cows and all that peacefully, but something along the line is dividing the agenda amongst us. But you see, our commonwealth, if you have to make that of comparisons of our common bond, is deep and so profound in terms of how do you know that the commonwealth we have today, which are natural resources, which are values, How do we use that to put Nigeria in a state of oneness? And that's what we need to address. However, no matter how you address it, you cannot shy away from from the fact that our security is under a huge threat. It's under a huge threat because you realize that a lot of people are talking of nativity. Oh, we are Yorubas. Oh, we are Igalas. We are Igbos. We are Hausa. We are Fulanese. That is making us to differentiate our individualism. Whereas it was never like that in history of Nigeria. We should go back to our history. The Nigerian Universities Commission and the Curriculum Department of the Ministry of Education should bring back our history. The history in our class cannot be negotiated. But when you say a common bond without going back to history, for the yet to be would be leaders tomorrow, for them to know the quality of history that we have, how we are, where we are today. It's very strong, and whereby you're making that incontrovertible, there's a problem. Our common bond cannot be seen without going back to history. It is shameful, it is disappointing that we do not have history in our classes. We all grew up and we all studied when we were in primary school, elementary school. We studied about Mungo Park, all of them. Those who discover, those who bring life for the first time, how to discover it by Niger, and by extension in secondary school. We went as far as having Mali Empire, Songhai Empire, Borno Empire, Wolof, Jolof. So those are the things that we must try to go back to. All these things that saying are common bond, are common values. We have to be with the oneness of Nigeria and security of our nation. So we should develop it. We should develop it not just by saying, on paper and practical. The practical approach of which we embrace our bond together and our common values will indicate how our tomorrow will be. Within Nigeria, where will Nigeria be tomorrow? That is why we must protect our integrity today. The integrity, the character of our oneness cannot be negotiated. And really, it's not about talk. Like I said, it's about implementation. There must be implementation committee in this from time to time, which will be a standard committee, not just ad hoc, that will have to implement the follow-up of what the conversation is this year and ensure that it is done, it is engaged with society and tied with society. Because we can't negotiate our common values. We can't negotiate our common law. We can't negotiate our common bond. But how do we stay away from this? It is all mundane need for us to say it without following up the process of implementation to details.
All right. Speaking about insecurity, which you touched on, recently he chaired the 2021 Sardauna Memorial Lecture that held in the Arewa House in Kaduna, and he proffered some solution which I'd like for you to perhaps react to. He said that the federal authorities must understand the deployment of brutal force towards addressing the country's security crisis, and that it can be solved through economic solutions. And he recommended herders and farmers be compensated for losses suffered, which he said will break the current cycle of violence and poverty. Are you confident that perhaps this is the way forward to addressing these issues?
Security is non-negotiable. It's guaranteed by the nation. The federal government cannot afford not to give its citizens security. And as a result, if one person goes to another person's territory and killing takes place from both party A or party B, or between the two of them, compensation by government is not something that you want to engage in. Nigerian security is under a very serious threat, a severe one. But the security apparatus in every nation, and in our nation in particular, must seem to be implemented in a way to protect all its citizens. But talking about compensation, I found it very laughable and disturbing. And I don't think that we should engage in that, because we can have a lot of areas of compensation, and that may be demanded by different sectors. That is something that nobody can talk about, because the other time we talk about Niger Delta, Then we talk about Boko Haram today. And many sects across the country have come up with all sort of things that people can talk about compensation. But it's not something that I as a Nigerian and someone that has held quite a number of positions in the country, also that you have to compensate people for killing or for threatening to kill. So I don't think that
for him, it's for the losses incurred on both sides. That is what he meant from his statement. The headers lost.
I think that the compensation will have to come through that.
All right.
I don't think compensation of that nature will have to, because how do you account for the number of people killed? How do you account for truly people who are killed from these sites?
All right.
Because compensation will lead to a lot of things. What we need to do more is to avert insecurity. Okay. We must develop our security print. The master print of security of our nation is lacking one clear area, that is intelligence. It's not about spending so much money on intelligence, but it's about putting the right means of intelligence in a society. Therefore, our security can be seen to be non-negotiable. Because
all right,
when you look at Nigeria on paper, it's great. Nigerians are the products of Nigeria. You got to move forward.
We have to leave the conversation here now, but we must thank you, APC chieftain and Nigerian ambassador to the Kingdom of Spain. Right. We would not like to put you on hold, as I'm being told, Ambassador Ademola Seriki. We need to quickly go on a commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue. To stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Today is the 12th Bola Tinubu Colloquium, which will be taking place virtually. And the President Muhammadu Buhari will chair the colloquium, which is a commemoration of the 69th birthday of the national leader of the All Progressives Congress. And before we went on break, we have been speaking with APC chieftain and Nigerian ambassador to the Kingdom of Spain, Ambassador Ademola Seriki, who has also eulogized the person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And he was also touching on certain issues which has to do with insecurity, how Nigeria perhaps should tackle it. He was talking to us, reacting to a recent statement made by the chieftain of the APC. Ambassador, thank you for joining us once again. You talked about not spending much, but also perhaps looking at the area of intelligence gathering. You would recall over time that over the years, the government, the president has ensured that when it comes to budgeting for security, a lot has been spent to addressing these issues. But some persons still think that something is wrong, because recently there were talks about some monies missing, and then again the NSA came out to say that that was not what he meant, that monies were not missing. But when you want to look at a holistic approach to addressing these issues, what are we not doing right, and perhaps what should we be building on moving forward?
Regarding security?
Yes.
Well, I alluded to the issue of intelligence output in our nation's master print of security as a whole. I remember in 2016, I personally wrote a letter to the presidency regarding security, and I tagged it PEPA, Presidential Emergency Plan against Boko Haram. And in there, it is not about having to buy equipment and all that. Our intelligence is weak, because if you have to shoot or try to attack anyone in any area, you should be able to do that in a precise environment. You don't go to Gwangwalaga to go and shoot, whereas the hoodlums, the bandits, are in Zamfara. So you must have sufficient intelligence output. It's called technical intelligence, and that is one thing that is lacking. It's a miss. It's like a lacuna in our security environments and paper. The air attack is the best means against Boko Haram and the likes, because of course they can't survive that. I remember those days where we had to attack against the militants when they killed some officers back in 2009. I was then the minister in defense. So really, the bandits cannot survive the attack. There's no way. But you must be precise. You must have precision as to where they are. Certainly, there will be casualties, but you just have to minimize it. So intelligence is lacking in our security development. In order to enhance it, we must have sufficient security on paper, whereby it should be implemented. Nigeria's problem has always been not about talking. Talking, we are fantastic. We articulate our position on everything. But implementation has always been the problem. That's why I said Nigeria on paper is great, but by the time you are implementing, it's a problem. People compromise. And you see corruptible practice that is so imbibed in our society is a problem. For example, look at it from the point of economic financial crime. Somebody steals 1 billion, you return 500 million, and you continue to say to him that, oh, that's a plea bargain, without any conviction, without any conviction attached to his record or becoming a felon. It's a problem. The same person will keep the remainder of 500 million, contest election to one office, and steal again. How can you be having plea again without proper conviction to records? These are the things that we must take away from our society as a huge deficiency of corruption. It is an adverse effect on the way we plan ourselves. Implementation is a problem in Nigeria. If we get implementation right, it's not about talking. And this is what I said earlier on about this colloquium as well. Every year they talk, but who assesses the implementation? So the implementation is the heart of talk, not talk. Talk is just like software. The hardware is the implementation, and that's where you see the right thing being taken place. And if we take it away, if we partly and dissuade corruptible practice in our society, certainly this country will grow immensely. But in the area of security, you can imagine the amount of money going on from time to time. Recently, NSA said something damning and indictable about the past services. These are the things that you must look at critically, that corruption is a huge, huge adverse effect of our development towards prosperity. If we are able to avert that, honestly, this country will grow a lot, because moral values are gone. We need to reinstate it back as well. And these are the things that we are lacking in society. It has cut across all sectors and all areas. So not doing it is not an option, but doing it is the only option.
All right. Recently, he also spoke about the fact that government has to inject more monies into the economy to address issues of poverty and unemployment, and that the private sector cannot create jobs, especially because of the environment. The enabling environment is seemingly not there.
Who said that, please?
Still talking about Bola Tinubu.
Yes. Well, I call some of our pattern of development voodoo economy. When you say that people should be holding money, you be giving them 10,000 naira per person and all that, in a society whereby you're not following up. If we have to follow American system, you have to bear in mind that they have a social security that identifies individual, and that my name is Ade, for example, and one young man called Alex cannot collect money twice. It's a problem. We must be able to have the mechanism that will put in place all Nigerians to be accountable to the amount of money they're collecting. I don't believe in voodoo economy. A lot of things look, there's no point for subsidy in our nation on petrol. We're better to develop infrastructure. We are not developing or supporting transport system. I know where TBC is located in Lagos. Anyone working for you and living in the axis of Lekki, living in TBS area, how much will it cost him to come up to work every day? If you consider amount of money, minimum wage is not a problem in Nigeria, but the amount of money we spend on minimum wage is still colossal. If I hand 30,000 naira a month and I have to spend on transportation 24,000 naira, all the money is gone. The government is not serious about transportation. The government must be able to support transport system. I remember during the COVID, when it was really heated, even it's still there, COVID is still there, that at a very high temperature of COVID, they are saying to people, oh, you can't carry more than number of people in the bus. Certainly, you want buses to be in operation. You see all these examples, they're not cooperating, they're not really complying. But those who are complying, government is not subsidizing them. It's only government duties that are putting a bid in terms of supporting transportation. But overall, state governments are not supporting the transport system. How many state governments can you see that supporting transport system? Because workers spend more money on transport. These are the things that government should do and should be able to improve on, rather than to talk about politics. You give me 5,000 naira, that will not get me anywhere. So we have many good economic issues in Nigeria, whereby the common practice of economic enterprising are not being put in place. We must do the right thing in order for the workers to know that you can save a variable minimum of 10,000 naira a month. The amount of money they're spending on all these extra budgetary areas is what is taking the money away. Ashwaju is a financial expert, but he's not seen by the public to be a financial expert. He's seen to be a politician and a mega one for that matter. But if you sit close to him and he demonstrates and exhibits his financial engineering skills, you would know that this man is a financial expert in every area. That is why the master print of which he put in place in 1999 to 2007 is what the subsequent governors have followed. He put Lagos in a good stead from 1999 to 2007, and everybody is following the same thing. The major areas that he opened up in Lagos is where and what people are still following, from Fashola to Ambodi to Saulu now. So you must bear in mind that a man of that nature with high mental alertness in developing infrastructure for our state. Certainly, if such a man would have to be given an opportunity to become president, he will do more, and he will do greatly. But the corruption in our society is a huge albatross in destroying our development towards prosperity, I repeat.
We must thank you, APC Chieftain and Nigerian Ambassador to the Kingdom of Spain, Ambassador Ademola Seriki, for your time on the program. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you. Have a nice day.
And you too.